Record on the. Well, hello, everybody. Excited to talk about the subject here of the 7 things no one tells you about retirement. I have my friend and I would say colleague here in Keith Langan from Columbia Threadneedle here with us today. And, we were talking about this subject, and I've had several clients through the years come and ask me, am I ready? When will I know? Questions about income, questions about taking Social Security. And, it's a really good conversation because most people haven't gone through this, but we've gone through it so many times with our clients. And, it is a huge decision to make, but there are a lot of things that you just can't prepare for unless you really just sit down and analyze it and see what people have gone through in the past. And so that's why we're here, just to kind of shed some light on what is it like to transition into retirement? What are some things you should be thinking about? And I'm excited to have Keith here with us today. And we're just going to share with you some insight into this, I believe, very important topic. So Keith, if you wouldn't mind, just maybe share a little bit about yourself and your family, where you live, and all that sort of stuff, and then we'll jump right in.
Sure, and thanks for having me, Matt, and welcome everybody. So as Matt mentioned, my name is Keith Langan. I am with Columbia Threadneedle Investments, and I am a father of 2 boys here in Carmel, Indiana. The boys are 8 and 4. I've been living in Indiana for the past 12 years. I actually came from Long Island and love the Hoosier State, and this is definitely now my home. My in-laws are here, and just excited to have my life here in Indiana. I'm also excited to share this presentation today because I think what you will all find as we go through the material is exactly what I have found and others have found as well, which is people who fit every person we speak about today. When we talk about retirement, we're not talking about the dollars and cents here. We're talking about a happy retirement. That, for this presentation, is what a successful retirement is. So when we speak about people who are living their best lives, you're going to know who we're speaking about. But when we're talking about people who are maybe struggling to adjust to retirement, and that's why we have this presentation today, is to help avoid that. You're probably going to think about people you love as well, people you care about. And it's a nice eye-opener to, let's enjoy our lives and what we have left of them. I'll also point out, I mentioned I'm a father of 2 boys. This presentation, it's not just for retirement. It's for any life-changing experience that you might have. So if you are in the early stages of now you're getting married and family planning, that is a life change. And there's going to be changes to your social structure, et cetera, when that happens. If your children are going off to college and you're becoming an empty nester, that is a life change that you have to think about. So again, if you're not close to retirement yet, that's okay. There's other life changes that will come in the meantime, and this is a great presentation. If you're in retirement, this could be a great wake-up call that, it's time to start doing the things that I was hoping to do. So this is presentation, although it's structured for getting ready for retirement, really fits for everybody, and it's a great presentation and a great reminder that we have one life, and let's take advantage of it the best we can.
I love it, Keith. When I was getting into my career, before I decided to become a financial advisor, I sought some counsel, and there was one very wise person I talked to, and he says, "Look, you should consider that career because you can literally help anybody with anything at any time in their lives." And that's the key point here is, look, life changes constantly, and we have to be prepared for the unexpected, but also prepare for the expected. And everybody's hopefully going to retire someday, and we just want to make sure that people are prepared for that. But I love everything you said there. So let's just get right into it if we can. So I'll ask you to
Mhm.
share the presentation here, and we'll dive right in, and we'll just have a conversation about it.
Sounds good. Hopefully you can see my screen now.
Perfect.
Good. So, again, the presentation is called The Seven Things No One Tells You About Retirement. And again, just to re-emphasize, this is not the dollars and cents, it's everything else. It's getting ready for retirement and what you need to know. I will show the list first, but then we'll get into what's the point of this presentation? Why do we have this presentation? Etc. So starting with just what this list is, the 7 things, it starts with the retirement history. I won't talk a lot here because it is really just the history of retirement. But the key point with retirement that has to be understood is it's actually a very new concept. If you go back 100 years or so, retirement really was not a topic people talked about. Life expectancy was shorter, and people essentially worked until they more or less passed away, and that was that. So when we speak about retirement, this is still a fairly new topic. And believe it or not, it's already outdated as well when we talk about policies in place to help us get to retirement. So that's really the first part here is if we were all born 150 years ago, there would be no retirement planning. The 401k didn't exist until 1978, etc. I'll talk about the wrong top 10 list. That's the why does this presentation even exist? And the unspoken side of retirement. This is the scary side of retirement that nobody likes to talk about, but it's important to at least know it exists, as to know what's the downside here if we don't plan properly. And then I'll talk about the why. Why is this happening? The major transition miscalculation. When cliches go wrong, this number 5 as well as number 7, the greatest paradox. These are a couple of the mistakes people make psychologically when they prepare for retirement. And then the broken record of longevity. I won't speak a lot here, but the key point for the broken record of longevity is we all know we're living longer. That's not going to be a new statement that I'm making today, but we're also younger for longer. And that's what we have to understand is we're not just living later in life, but we have energy and we feel better for later in life as well. So when you plan for retirement, you have to plan for hopefully decades worth of feeling young, feeling fresh, having energy. And so what are you going to do to take advantage of that and to fill your time? So, but let's first start with what's the point of this presentation? And this is an example I like to use. So let's say you were starting a new job as in nursing care, and you had to choose between 2 patients. And so patient A, they can't feed themselves, they're emotional, they can't speak coherently, they're incontinent, and they bite at will. That's the first patient that you get to choose from. The second patient has some memory loss, they can feed themselves, they're frail, and they will want you to read to them. So with only this set of information in front of you, I've done this in front of a group, and who wants patient A, who wants patient B, and most people raise their hand for patient B. But when we look at who patient A and patient B are, one is an infant and someone is an elderly person in a nursing home. And this isn't, look, there are some people who still stand by patient B. My grandfather had Alzheimer's, and the nurses who took care of him at the end were absolute saints. But there are definitely people who would be very disappointed to find out that they could have spent their days taking care of an adorable baby, but they chose not to. So, okay, so what's the point here? The point here is if you have to make a decision, and in some cases it is a major life-changing decision, having all the facts in front of you is extremely important. And that's what this presentation is geared towards is when you are making your decision about retirement and what's the next steps when you do retire, seeing the full picture, the pros and the cons is extremely important to making sure you're making the right decisions about what your future looks like. Matt, does that make sense to you and what you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. I think you raised some great points here.
Great. So I'm going to move on if it's okay. As I mentioned, I'm going to really skip through the history of retirement, but again, a few of the key points here. Social Security didn't start until 1899. It was in Germany, and you had to live till 70 to get Social Security. The life expectancy was under 70. So it was a very popular plan that made Otto von Bismarck very popular, but no one really took advantage of it. But again, if you go down the line, some of the key takeaways here is that saving for retirement really only started about 40 years ago. And even though the 401k started in 1978, it wasn't popular until years later. And at the time, people really thought that they were going to have their pension. The first Social Security check was 2254, paid in 1940. Again, Social Security was really just meant as a supplement. But as pensions started to go away and 401ks became a bigger thing, suddenly creating your own retirement is extremely important. And so what you'll see here is that now boomers are expected to fund about 70% of their retirement. This is a major flip when you figure boomers started working right around the time, maybe even before the time of the 401k even becoming invented. And now suddenly they're expected to fund their own retirement. Think about what a flip of the mind that is, that you go from not needing to save for retirement, there's pensions, etc., to suddenly it is entirely on you as to whether or not you retire. And so finally, there are IRAs, there's Roth 401ks, etc. They tend to be underutilized. Again, this is a great reason to work with a financial advisor, but the whole point here is retirement history is very short and again, already outdated. But let's get into the why are we even speaking about this today? And it comes down to a study that psychologists did where they surveyed people and they asked them, out of a list of all these stressful events, can you please score them so we can see what is the most stressful life events that one can go through? And so 9 out of 10 didn't shock anybody. A death of a spouse was the most stressful. Makes a lot of sense. Divorce, marital separation, jail time, personal injury, death of a close family member. Again, that didn't shock anybody, and that was very expected. What was not expected was number 10, retirement. And it wasn't expected because what do you say when somebody tells you they're retiring? You congratulate them. What do
Right.
you say when someone is retired? And what do you do for a living? I'm retired. You get jealous. You say, I wish I was retired. Congratulations. What are you up to? We throw parties for people who retire. This is a very happy event. So how is it also one of the most stressful events that one can go through? So psychologists asked that question, and what they discovered was when they looked at the other events that were stressful that you could choose from, they all kind of fall into retirement. Uh, Death of a close friend happens as you get older. A change in residence. How many people move when they retire? Change in social activities. For most of us, our biggest social activity, unfortunately, is work. That goes away. Change in living conditions, change in eating habits, personal habits, number of arguments with your spouse when you're home all day. That can definitely happen. Change in financial state. So they realize that retirement and this very joyous occasion that we all strive to achieve can actually come with a lot of stress because these things are going to happen, at least some of them, in retirement. And we need to be mentally prepared for the change in diet, the change in social structure, etc. So here's the dark part of the presentation. They decided to go one step further and say, well, what's really happening in retirement? Because if you ask someone, how's retirement going? They're going to tell you that it's going great. How many people truly open up and tell you the demons that they might be facing or what's really going on in their life? How's retirement? Wonderful. That's great. What are you doing? Oh, I'm keeping busy, walking the dog. Um, they don't really open up to what's really happening in their lives. So again, psychologists went a step further and said, well, what's really happening? And they realized that the likelihood of clinical depression increases by 40% after retiring. 25% of seniors 60 and above report feeling isolated. 43% can go days without talking to other people. And then, of course, a lot of this leads to addiction. 65% of people 65 and older report high risk drinking. And so when these stats started to come up, and we started to realize that retirement is again, it's not just golf and beach all day, but there's really a different side to this that no one's talking about. This is where this presentation really comes from, because they wanted to look into what is happening that's causing this type of depression in retirement, and then what steps can we take to make sure we prevent this and have a very happy, successful retirement. And so that, again, that is where this presentation comes from. And you're going to start hearing about it more and more as more people retire and they live longer. This topic is going to become much bigger. And so when you ask somebody, oh, you're retiring, that's great. What are you getting in retirement? What will they tell you? They will tell you they're getting their time back. They're getting their freedom back. They're getting their energy because they have time and freedom. No more 8 a.m. stuck in traffic. No more 6:30 stuck in the office Monday through Friday. More vacations, time to travel. This is what everybody talks about. But if you ask somebody, well, what are you losing in retirement? They might say, oh, my income, or the benefits from work, and that's true. But take that out of it, the psychology of it. What is your life going to be missing? What are you losing in your life when you retire? And that's what people don't think about nearly as much. You're losing a routine and identity. Whether we like work or not, that's who we are. It's our routine every day, and routines can be good. A mental stimulus, social connection with our coworkers, physical activity. That is what we're missing, and that is what we really don't think about when we retire is what's missing. And the bottom line is, in the end, when you retire, there's a really good chance you actually lose more than you gain. And so there is a saying, PERMA, and that is positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement. This is what you need to have a happy and fulfilling life. And so at work, we know where this comes from. Positive emotion, completing a big project, engagement, being a leader, relationships, being part of a team, meaning, have a defined purpose. If you're at work, you have a title, you have a role. And then achievement, things like getting promoted, landing the big client, whatever the case might be. At work, you have all of these things. And these things can go away in retirement. So the first thing we ask of you is, when you're getting ready for retirement, which it could be now, it could be 10 years from now, it could be 20 years from now, whatever the case is, ask yourself, where are you going to get these things elsewhere? So positive emotion, like completing a big project. That could be, if your passion is gardening, it could be creating that garden that you dream about and you see in the magazines. If it's golf, getting your score down to the score that you were hoping for. If it's a charity, you could achieve this in a charity, getting it up and started, or achieving that big event. Engagement, being a leader. Again, this could be on a golf team or a tennis or pickleball team. Again, charities, or starting a small business that's a passion of yours. Same with being part of a team. Same thing, working with people to achieve something, whether it's for your church or anything else. Having a defined purpose. This is extremely important. We all need a purpose, and it could be watching your grandchildren. Again, it could be a new role in a league or whatever the case is, that charity, but having that purpose. What is your purpose in retirement? And then achievement, whatever you're doing, whether it's helping with family, whether it's that charity or sports or knitting or gardening, whatever the case is, there has to be an achievement that you're striving for. So ask yourself, what is that? And if you're already retired, it's still not too late to write that down and say, do I have this meaning? Do I have these relationships? Am I a leader? And if I'm not, what steps can I take today to make sure I'm there, to give myself that fulfilling life? And so,
Keith, I don't mean to interrupt here, but
please
I would
do.
just say, could it be said in a way here that um, you don't want to retire necessarily just from something. You want to retire to something. And
So, oh, go ahead, Matt.
and I think, as I talk to our clients, I and talk to folks who are thinking about it, that's one of the things that I look for, uh, not only on the financial side, but on the mental and the psychological side, like you're so well putting in front of us here today. I think that making sure that somebody has a purpose, not only for discipline, but for accountability as well. The decisions that you make are in light of your purpose. And so what we've done with our clients is we are uh, helping our clients form a purpose statement. And the purpose statement is designed to help them keep an eye on the target, and their decisions that they make, including when to retire, is all in light of what that purpose is. And so I love what you're saying here, and it just kind of fleshes out that idea that, look, you really want to retire to something and not from something.
So, Matt, you're absolutely right, and we agree. But I will say this, uh, what that actually does segue nicely into a mistake that people do make in retirement. And I'm just going to change one word. Instead of retire to something, retire with something. And so the reason I bring this up, there's a saying here, first we make our habits and then the habits make us. You definitely want to retire to something, but think about every year, your New Year's resolution, and maybe Matt, maybe you always follow through. I will say my New Year's resolution rarely makes it to February 1st. And I think most people, their New Year's resolutions don't make it throughout the whole year. And why? Because on January 1st, I don't suddenly wake up a gym rat, or I don't wake up a runner. I don't wake up a reader on January 1st. And so what we encourage people is to think about is, yes, it's great. You have to have things when you go into retirement, but don't think that when you retire, you will suddenly become that new person. So instead of retiring to that, retire with that, because while you're working, you've already taken steps to establish yourself in this new role. So if it is that charity, start volunteering at the charity today, so that when you retire, you're retiring with the charity. If it's golf, if it's gardening, whatever the case is, start it today. And the example I love to use, a good friend of mine has an Uncle Lou, and when Uncle Lou was getting ready to retire, he mapped out a cruise around the world, and it was actually 7 cruises. And these 7 cruises were going to basically take him to every corner of the world. And it was going to be an awesome retirement. He mapped it all out. He planned it. There was one problem with his plan. Uncle Lou has never been on a cruise before. And so when he retired, he went on his first cruise, came back, and absolutely hated cruises. Did not like any part of it.
Wow.
And suddenly his entire retirement plan kind of blew up on him. His entire, what his purpose was and meaning was going to be, blew up because he realized he didn't like the activity that he thought he wanted to do. Another example, I have a friend of mine who is getting ready to retire, rented an RV, and him and his wife drove around in an RV, and they loved it. and they're still working, but on their free time, they get in the RV and they go. When they retire, they don't wonder what their plan is. They are mapping out the US and where they can go with their RV with more time. So again, it's a simple change of word. You do want to retire to something, but I would say think about retiring with something and plan on it today. Make sure you love it. Get involved in the social life that goes around whatever meaning and purpose this is now, so that when you retire, it's there for you. Your habits are formed already, so you don't have to hope that when you retire, you suddenly become this new person. And so we like to point out professional athletes. 78% of NFL players go bankrupt in the first 2 years. 60% of NBA players within the first 5 years. Why? It's because they never had a different mindset after they retired. Lottery winners, 70% go broke within 7 years. Same thing. Whatever your habits were before, those are going to be your habits afterwards. And then prison escapes. 60% are caught in the first 24 hours, 85% are caught within a week. Why? They spend so much time planning their escape, they don't actually plan what their next steps are. And that's probably great for us. But bottom line is planning ahead and what are you going to do next after you get out is extremely important. And doing it today is the most important thing, because in the end, if what you do when you're not working is you sit on your couch and watch TV, when you retire, you're probably just going to sit on your couch and watch TV. If what you do is you go shopping when you're not working, when you retire, you're probably just going to shop a lot more. We're creatures of habit, and so just don't expect that your life changes on day one. Change it today so that you're ready for when that life change happens, whether it is marriage, children, empty nest, or retirement. Does that make sense, Matt?
Absolutely. The way I've heard it put is, retirement is a lot like 6 Saturdays followed by a Sunday. And and my immediate reaction to that was, well, what do you do on Saturday? Financially, you're going to probably spend the most money on Saturday. You're going to be doing the most activities. And so, we need to be prepared for that, which is why the stats prove that you do spend more in the first years of your retirement than you did when you were working. So how do we prepare and plan for that? But you're exactly right. Kind of what you do in your downtime is a lot of what encompasses your retirement is what I've seen. So I'm glad the evidence is there to back this up, if you will. So all great points. I love I was wondering about the prison escapes. So it makes perfect sense though. It's makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
So, no, absolutely. Uh, and when you're planning for your retirement, I mentioned this earlier. It's not just that we're living longer, but we feel younger for longer. I always enjoy this slide is, when are you old? And it comes down to who you ask. If you ask someone who's under 30, you're old at 60. 30 to 49, you're old at 69. But when you get to 65 plus, they say old age begins at 74, but only 21% of those 65 to 74 actually feel old. And when you're 75 and older, just 35% said they feel old. So again, whatever your dream is after retirement, just know that it hopefully will last decades, and you're going to have the energy to do it, which is a great thing, because you really can achieve a lot in retirement. So
Age is just a
it,
number, as they say.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll probably butcher this quote, but something along the lines of, we don't stop playing because we get old. We get old because we stop playing. That kind of falls into this here. Find ways to keep yourself young, and that's with that perma, finding a purpose, finding a meaning, finding achievements, etc.
Well, I think just being
So
aware
the
of that,
final,
being aware of the fact that, objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and
Mhm.
objects at rest, tends to stay there. So I don't think it's any different. And at least that's been my experience as well, is the people who do think about that usually have the most fulfilling and the most enjoyable, satisfying retirements. So all really good points to bring out.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So I'll finish with the seventh part of the seven things, which is the retirement's greatest paradox, which is it when you retire, your work is not finished. It just reorients itself. So there's a different type of work in retirement, and it could just be saying no to adult children. It could be you know, worrying about children, parents, siblings, etc. Reconnecting with lost passions and hobbies. Um, again, whether it's gardening or golfing or knitting or anything else, I think anyone who's done those things will tell you it takes time. It takes time to learn how to do them. It takes time to perfect them. You don't just suddenly become an expert at these things. So there's mistakes, there's physical constraints. So the point here is expect work. It's not the 9 to 5 with a boss and a deadline type of work. It's different kinds of work. But if you just mentally prepare yourself for whatever your next stage in life is, it's going to require some work. It's going again to have that meaning, to have that achievement. You're going to have to put some effort into it. You're going to have to make mistakes. You're going to have to learn. And if you accept that, you'll have a very happy retirement. But if you were hoping that you will have no more challenges once you retired and you will have a stress-free life when you retire, you might be disappointed in what your retirement looks like. So it's just that's the other mistake that psychologists have found when people retire. Again, they didn't expect those challenges, or they wanted results without the hard work, and that's just not going to be the case. And that's part of why finding truly what you love is extremely important, because if you do find what you love, you don't mind the hard work. And if anything, the work makes the achievement that much better, and it makes the meaning in your life that much more meaningful and fulfilling. So it's just expect that work, know that it's coming, and if you do it right, you'll be happy to do it. And I'll finish with this thought, which it came from a hospice nurse who, obviously she's working with people who are at the very end of their lives, and she spoke about what are the regrets that she heard from people at the end of their life. And so I'll read them out to you now. But I wish I had the courage to live a true life to myself, not the life others expected of me.
Hmm.
I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had let myself be happier.
Hmm.
It has nothing to do with work. It's about, I wish I was true to myself and made myself happy. So we are all masters of our own fate. We all have the ability today to take control of our lives and control of our futures, and make sure that one day when we're in hospice, we have no regrets. We can look back on our life and say, we did it. We did what we wanted to do. We had purpose. We changed lives. So if you haven't, take control of your life today, because we will pass away. All of us will. And you want to do it as happy as you can and with as little regrets as possible. So I'll stop there. But I again, I'm happy to speak more, but I really appreciate being able to present this topic to you.
No, thank you very much, Keith. I think about the folks that are doing really, really well, and I think they did exactly what you said. They went into retirement with something, and they've had just the time of their lives. But then I also think about the people who just could not wait to quit work, just could not wait to be done with something, and they really didn't give thought to the next steps. They didn't give thought to what they were going to be doing with their time. Um, Unfortunately, I think a lot of those folks just they they didn't last very long. And so, I think what we're trying to do is again help people with purpose. we want all of our clients to really form their own personal purpose statement. And then we're going to revisit that as we continue to meet. So, my process is very simple. And what we do is just discover everything we can. And that includes things like this. What's your purpose and your interests? And, it's not just about, hey, how much money am I gonna have in my in room in my budget? So we obviously want to keep that stuff in mind, but we discover everything we can, number one. Number two, we design a plan specifically for you. Everybody's different. Everybody has family dynamics. They've got different obligations, different likes, everything. So we want to design a plan that's specifically for you. Some of our clients, they want to travel for 10 years, and we need to make sure we have the money for that. Then thirdly, we deploy the necessary strategies to give you the best chance to reach your goals. And so really, it's just that three-step process. And then as we continue to meet together, we review those strategies, we review your situation just to make sure that we're focusing on what's important to you. We care about you as people and not just as investors only. And so hopefully you got something from this presentation today. I thought it was a fantastic topic, and one I think most people really should think a little bit more about, especially as they near that retirement age. But again, to Keith's point, look, if you're going through a life change, there are a lot of things to consider here. So, Keith, I just want to thank you again for your time. Thank you so much for being so eloquent with this somewhat difficult topic. There's some things I'm sure people didn't want to necessarily hear, but at the same time, I think it gives people the best shot at being prepared. So appreciate you, appreciate the partnership with
My
Columbia
pleasure.
Threadneedle, and appreciate you a lot, and hope you have a great day.
My pleasure, Matt. Have a great day.